So, hi everybody, and welcome to Tea Time Talks with me, Dan Weiner, estate planning attorney here in North County, San Diego. And I have a very special guest with me here today, Melissa Steele, who is one of the leading realtors here in San Diego. Melissa, welcome. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me. I am so excited to be here. And yeah, it's an incredible opportunity to connect with you today, my friend. It's a beautiful day out in San Diego, and I'm happy to be here. Thank you for the opportunity.
Excellent. It's my pleasure. And Melissa, when we spoke a few weeks ago, the thing that struck me was just how passionate you are about real estate, about helping your clients to make the best decisions for them in what is often one of the biggest transactions they ever enter into in their lives. But maybe we can talk a little bit about how you got into real estate.
I would love that. Yeah, that's a hefty question. I'll try and answer it in like a 2-minute wrapped up summary for you so you can get a full understanding. But what got me into real estate initially is I grew up around grandparents who'd moved here from Greece with, next to nothing, and they built some of their wealth in real estate. And then I grew up seeing my parents have not only their primary residence, but a rental home, and they owned a piece of property in North Carolina. So I was always intrigued by real estate. And in that same thread of intrigue, I, as a senior in college, didn't want to really live alone. I was feeling anxious about the transition, and I decided to buy a house. I was in Buffalo, New York, so the market was much different than it is here in San Diego. My first house was under $100,000, but I bought my first house at age 21 before graduating college, and it was my first real house hack opportunity. I had 2 roommates that were friends. They made out like banshees because their rent was really cheap. And it was a great win-win because I was winning as well in the fact that they were paying for, the bills and really helping me to maintain the burden of the mortgage and things like that. So they helped me, I helped them. It was a great win-win, and I ended up paying off that home within 2 years, actually. So it was my first house hack opportunity. And while living in Buffalo, New York after college, John and I got really good jobs. We started to really put down roots in Buffalo, but something that was just really off for us is we were not 100% happy. And we made a conscious choice together to leave it all behind in the search for something that would make us more happy. So we decided to leave Buffalo, New York. We packed up everything we owned into a Honda Accord. We left everything else and we sold everything else. We put a for sale sign in the house. We sold John's car, and we made our way to San Diego in 2013. So in April of 2013, we actually arrived in San Diego. John fell into real estate. He was a real estate assistant. So while he had been working at a really, financial position, high end with great benefits, making a substantial amount for a market like Buffalo, what was really unique is in San Diego, he chose a position that he was making roughly a third of what he'd been making in Buffalo, which San Diego is at least double of the cost of living so it was a huge shift for us. But in that position, we really started to surround ourselves and really absorb a lot of what we were learning. So he was a real estate assistant for other real estate agents, and we started to learn a lot about investing. And as a part of that position, he actually decided his job requested that he got his real estate license. So at the time, we had just moved to San Diego. We'd been here about 6 months, and I was like, you know what? I don't have very many friends. No, I'm just kidding. No, I didn't have very many friends. But realistically, I was like, you're getting the books and all of the material. I'll do it with you, right? We'll spend weekends and nighttime studying. So I got it with John, and while it was actually really interesting, at this time we had no intention whatsoever of becoming real estate agents or being real estate agents. And what was really unique about the situation is we were going through our licensing, and I was studying and I was learning. And as I learned the material, I was like, wow, the first agent I ever used to buy and sell the house in Buffalo misguided me. And I had no idea at the time. I was a 21-year-old. She had, it wasn't she had blatantly lied to me, but she really misguided me in a few different things. And I had been so disappointed in hindsight looking back at that and realizing that that's where so many agents, like where the mentality around real estate agents comes from. And in John's real estate assistant position, we started to see so many gaps in what real estate agents could be doing in servicing their clients. It was upsetting us to see that the clients were always the one getting the short end of that stick, like I had been as a 21. And then, when I turned around and sold my house at, I think it was 23, experiencing that lit a fire in us that we were like, you know what, we could do this and we could potentially do it better. And we could potentially set a different standard for real estate completely as to what people deserve in their experience. So that's how it all started.
Amazing. What an incredible story. And so amazing actually that you started so young in real estate and really kind of got your business off the ground, and that you're a husband and wife team that works together. We're also a husband and wife team. So I have some degree of understanding of how that works. Any challenges lately in the whole husband and wife team dynamic?
No, honestly, I feel so grateful that we're in a really good place. I hope you guys are too, because like you said, there are challenges. A lot of people are like, wow, what's it like working with your significant other, right? And I feel very grateful that we have a good balance and a good dynamic. A side note to that is that we have fully been envisioning and manifesting our future 4-bedroom house with our own separate offices in the last few weeks during quarantine, because we do share a 500 square foot 2-bedroom 1-bath home, and we share an office that's about 10 by 10. So a lot of magic happens in a very small space. And prior to COVID, there was a lot of back and forth. What did you say?
You guys must really like each other.
We must. There must be something about it.
Yeah.
It comes with its challenges, of course.
Yeah, absolutely. And how have you been managing through the pandemic to serve clients?
Great question. So honestly, not much shifted for us, except for the fact that all of a sudden we went from being very out in the field to not seeing clients face to face for almost 7 weeks, which was amazing and shocking at the same time. Honestly, about a quarter of our business on Team Steele was helping clients move to San Diego, look at properties virtually. So we actually had a lot of familiarity with the relationship between the technology space and real estate, right? So honestly, when everything went virtual, we didn't really skip a beat. For us, I think the most mind-blowing shift was that we had done so much remote prior. We have 360 video cameras. We do virtual reality for our listings. So we really enjoy that space. I think the biggest shift for us was that for so long, individuals would, see some of our clients buying homes sight unseen from across the country, potentially moving in and having that be the first time they ever physically saw the property. And having individuals have the conversation around, oh, I could never do that. I could never buy a home without, spending a good amount of time in it or seeing it virtually. Like I would not have the guts to do something like that. And to see that shift pretty much overnight has been the most interesting thing for us, because our business hasn't changed too much. We've just now expanded the virtual space very dramatically. But in terms of the client mentality and individual mindset, it's just so interesting how quickly it shifted from I could never do that to, okay, how do I make my offer sight unseen, and where can I find my virtual tour, right? So for sellers, the process went from, having a lot of people coming into the house, a traditional like open house model, that shifted, and we have sold now, I believe, 3 or 4 homes that we've never even seen before physically. We'll initially meet with the seller on FaceTime. We'll give them staging feedback. We'll give them tips on home improvements via FaceTime. We're doing everything through the camera. We're getting a tour. And with certain clients, it's like you're watching the Blair Witch Project. I'm like, start from the left of the room and pan slowly. Taking you around the house. They're like, what about this? So it's been an adventure
Yeah.
for sure. But for sellers, yeah, we're starting the process. We're doing it completely virtually, pretty much. The seller then leaves their home for a period of about 2 hours. We have our photographer go in by themselves, completely safe. They leave. Then our 360 guy goes in completely by himself. He leaves. And then we mark it from our desks using that, that footage and the technology that we have. And then for buyers, what's been really interesting is for weeks, we didn't physically see property with buyers. We would go into the property by ourselves, taking that risk on and protecting the client. We have 360 video cameras, so we would show them the home in 360 degrees. We would, in most cases, be submitting sight unseen offers, and then they would be subject to an acceptance upon viewing that home in person. And they would typically just arrive on their own, and the seller would let them in, and they would see it, and we'd move forward with the transaction. So it's been very interesting.
Fantastic. And it's great to hear that you were not scrambling when all of this, hit the ground. You were well set up to do virtual showings and to keep things running through the pandemic. So that's excellent. And you mentioned earlier that, one of the things that brought you into real estate was, your own personal experiences and what you went through when buying and selling houses, and your determination to do things differently. Talk about one of the things that you became estate.
Perfect. I think we're breaking up a little bit, but I think you're asking me what distinguishes me from other real estate agents, correct?
Correct.
Okay, perfect. So yeah, absolutely. In setting that different standard, like you said, I think there's a few things that really set us apart from other real estate agents. I think the drive to serve is really one that sets us apart. We convert multiple people. We've converted a lot of clients at this point who have been those people who swear they're never going to use another real estate agent, right? They're the people who think they can sell their own home. They will absolutely navigate their own purchase. Like, they don't need a real estate agent's help. Every experience they've ever had has been poor with a real estate agent. We've converted a good amount of those over to loving working with Team Steele, which is, I feel like, an honor, but we really are relentless in our pursuit to serve. I think in that same line of thought, being a resource and a subject matter expert is super important to us. I think all the time how much I wish that my family had a realtor in their back pocket, like as I was growing up and as they were building their wealth and deciding what to do with their, in terms of their financials and their investments. Because honestly, I know how priceless a lot of the value that I give to my clients really is in terms of thinking outside the box or getting creative, or how can we house hack? How can you get into a home 2 years sooner and then buy that dream home, 5 years sooner? Like, how can we together as a team ultimately achieve the goal and win together, right? So I think that being a resource and a subject matter expert, like we tell clients all the time, there's no question too stupid. You could ask me the same question 15 times, but until you have an understanding of it, it's really important, right? And then also, and then in terms of being a resource, I don't want anyone to ever feel like they're an inconvenience to me. I have people call me pretty often. They're like, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm not planning on selling or buying, but I had a real estate question." Why are you sorry? I don't care if I'm not planning on making $5, or something from our conversation. I know that, like, what an honor that you're thinking of me when it comes to real estate, that I'm the expert that you think of, right? And I love giving that feedback. I think it's really a valuable, ultimately, I want to see the people around me become financially successful. I want to see the people that, are in my space. I want to see them win. I want to see them in a house if that's what they want to achieve. So ultimately being a resource. And then I think too, doing what's right every time. There are so many times where John and I have walked away from a commission check. And honestly, when we first started out in our business, we questioned it almost. We were like, are we doing the wrong thing by walking away from so much business? From unrealistic sellers who wanted too much from their home, from buyers who we wouldn't be able to provide, to fulfill the expectation. Like, everybody wants a house at the beach for 600K, right? But we nipped that in the bud even early on. So doing what's right every time, I will say it definitely hindered us in the beginning. It kept us growing super fast. But then when it caught on and people really understood what we stood for and what we were here for, it snowballed. People really understood that we were in it for the long run, that it wasn't a short-term game for us, and that when we do what's right every time, it's okay talking a buyer out of buying a money pit or encouraging a listing appointment that I'm on to not sell their home so that I can make a commission, but instead keep their home because they can afford to do so. That is going to come back to us in tenfold in the long run. So I think really partnering with someone who has that best interest in mind sets us apart as well. And then I also just like to give myself a pat on the back because we're really good at negotiations too. I have agents very often ask me where we're from because we're from the East Coast. I grew up right across the bridge from New York City, and I have a lot of that in me. And so negotiations are definitely one of our strengths. And I think something that we really sets us apart from other realtors. We're pretty relentless in helping our clients achieve the things that they need out of the transaction through powerful negotiation.
That's great, and it's pretty clear that you obviously have your clients' best interests at heart, and you're willing to talk them out of things that they may have gone ahead with otherwise. And I think one of the biggest accolades, one of the biggest compliments that you can have, that any professional can have, is when people just reach out to you for advice, what you think they should do about their particular problem. Even if they're not willing or ready to go ahead with a particular transaction. That says a lot. That says a lot.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then I guess there's a lot that you're trying to correct about the industry that you've seen from experience. Is there a particular mistake that you see a lot of people making when they're either buying or selling?
This is a really good question, right? And I think it's a powerful one because we learn from other people's mistakes. I think the one thing that I see buyers and sellers relentlessly trying to do, and I think it's very poor to kind of operate in this capacity, trying to time the market. It's a really basic one, but it's honestly something that a lot of us try and do. I don't try and time the market. Unless you're extremely savvy in the marketplace, it's very hard to time a market. Instead, I encourage buyers and sellers to buy and sell at the time that's right for them. And together, within probably a 3 to 6 month window, John and I and our team can help you to navigate when the ideal time is within that window. But if you have a life shift that is, for example, right now with COVID, you have buyers who are coming out of the woodwork who want to be out of their apartment into, building equity and building their own home in their own space. You can very easily in San Diego, because rent is so high, transition from, a 2-bedroom apartment to a 2-bedroom condo. It's not that big of a gap in financials. So ultimately, if you're seeing yourself in a position like this and, you want to get into a space and start building your own equity, don't get into your head questioning, well, should I buy in 6 months? Prices might come down. Don't start questioning everything, that's going on around you, because the chances are you're not going to be able to time the market regardless. And I have seen countless buyers end up paying hundreds of thousands of dollars more than they would have initially spent because they just didn't pull the trigger initially. And the same thing with sellers. I've had sellers really regretful over not selling at the time that was most convenient for them. So really, I think the best time to buy or sell or invest is when the time, when you have that kind of gnawingness at you, something is driving you to make a move in some capacity. Feel into that, work through it, get the job done. Try not to time the market because you're not going to be able to do it. You and I don't know. Who could have predicted in February that we were going to have COVID? It's really hard to know. And then, for example, like what we're dealing with right now, who would have expected that COVID would have not brought down the market at all, right? I think in March, I had a bunch of clients who took a slight step back thinking like, oh, COVID and a pandemic, that's going to crush the market. I want to get it when it's less hot in a couple months. Well, those people are now back and their interest rates are a little bit higher in some cases, depending on their financing. And they're like, well, crap, Stuff didn't get cooler at all. In fact, it's hotter. And now there's 20 properties or 20 offers on every property. So what do I do and how do I do it quick? So that's the thing, timing the market. Sometimes you're not going to be doing yourself the best, creating the best scenario for yourself. You're adding a lot of anxiety to the mix by trying to time things perfectly.
Just one more question for you. If there was one insider trick or top tip that you had for your clients when people are buying or selling, what would that be?
Great question. I think my one tip is don't sacrifice your experience. We do a lot of open houses, not the last few weeks, but up until a few weeks ago, we do a lot of open houses. In 2017, in fact, we did 100 open houses over the course of the year. So many people come in and I'm like, how's your real estate experience? That's so awesome. You're buying your first house. How's your agent? Oh, they're okay. That kills me on the inside. Why are they only okay? Don't sacrifice when it comes to your experience. You are 100% worthy of having a kick-ass realtor, somebody who answers your phone, is accessible, is knowledgeable, who you're not an inconvenience for, who's excited to work with you. And ultimately, I'm a firm believer that your realtor can save you tens of thousands of dollars. They can save you tens of thousands of dollars or make you tens of thousands of dollars. And ultimately, partnering with one that is up to the standard that you keep is what I highly encourage anyone to do. I have, like I said, converted a lot of people who had terrible real estate experiences, and that is such a commonality amongst people who buy and sell real estate. So I encourage you to not settle. There are real estate agents out there who are willing to work for you. Call me. We do business nationwide, and I will gladly help you wherever you're looking to buy, because you're worthy of having an awesome experience, and it should be fun. I tell every client, it might be stressful, but it should be fun.
Fantastic. Putting the fun back into real estate. I love that. And Melissa, I've really enjoyed talking to you, hearing your story, hearing what you're doing differently. I think, our audiences, the people that we're sharing this with, are really going to benefit from hearing from you, from hearing the way that you do things. I really appreciate your time. Looking forward to talking to you again soon. And thank you everybody for watching, and take care. Stay safe, and we'll speak soon.
You too. Thank you so much. Have a great day.
You too. Take care.